They call me Lucky Luca. Written by hercreation. Featuring Dr. Creepen and Princely. They call me Lucky Luca because, well, I've always been known for my good luck. They call me Lucky Luca because I've won every bet I've made, because I always draw the winning raffle ticket. They call me Lucky Luca because I managed to build an entire career as a professional gambler off of my luck, because I've used it to amass a small fortune for a man my age. All of that aside, they call me Lucky Luca because I was lucky enough to win the greatest lottery of them all, when I met and fell in love with my wife, Mona. They call me Lucky Luca because until recently, I've been so incredibly lucky all of my life. About a week ago, I was startled by a knock on my door. Mona was off on a spa weekend, and I hadn't made any plans with the guys. So I figured it might be a stranded motorist in need of assistance. The rain was coming down pretty damn hard that night. I set my tumbler of whiskey on a coaster and peeled myself off of the couch to answer the door. I pulled the door open to a complete stranger. He was a squat man, no more than 5 feet tall, his portly body dressed in black formal wear, with an equally dark cloak to match. A black umbrella obscured his face. His complete silence brought a slight, imminent unease. "Can I help you, sir?" I offered, feigning comfort in the stranger's oppressive silence.
"If you'd grant me a brief entry into your home, I'd be much obliged,"
he replied, a slight English accent furthering the formality of his words.
I'm afraid I got caught out in the storm, and there's a message I must deliver. May I trouble you to use your telephone?"
Just from the first impressions, he didn't seem like the type of guy to carry a cell phone, so his reasonable request set me at ease. Shaking my head, I answered warmly, "No trouble at all, sir. Please, come in and make yourself at home." I stepped aside and extended an arm to welcome him inside, diligently wiping the bottoms of his leather dress shoes on the mat outside. He shook the excess water from his umbrella before collapsing it and stepping through the door. Once he put his umbrella away, I was able to get a good look at the man's features. With his sandy hair cropped in an awkward bowl cut, protruding red nose, and pair of beady yet bulging eyes set in his round face, he looked almost cartoonish. To be frank, other aspects of his appearance just made him look, unwell. Darkened semicircles lined the bags that sagged beneath his eyes, and a deep trench of wrinkles surrounded a grimace that was permanently fixed on his face. He strolled leisurely towards me, slamming the point of his umbrella down into the wood floor, like a cane, as he moved. He waved his free hand at the shadow boxes lining the hallways, each one boasting a different prize I'd earn, a poker tournament I won.
My. You've seen a lot of good fortune in your life, haven't you, sir?"
"You could say that," I responded dismissively. I just wanted to get his call taken care of so he could be on his way. "I'm sorry, sir," I stammered, pulling my phone from my back pocket. "Your message?" The man chuckled flatly, his unmoving frown almost comical.
"I apologize for having deceived you, Luca. But the message I've come to deliver, well, you are the intended recipient."
I just stared at him, blinking in disbelief. "Who the fuck are you?" I seethed, patience suddenly running thin. He bobbed his head from side to side, as if trying to find words to answer such an incredibly basic question.
"Think of me as an auditor, but not for material possessions. My practice deals in luck."
I rolled my eyes, scoffing. This had to be some sort of fucked up prank. The stranger paid my dismissive response no mind.
One might say you've had too much luck, you lucky Luca.
He breathed, tooting.
And that's why I've paid you a visit tonight to, even the playing field, as they say.
He paused a brief moment before dragging the tip of one gloved finger along a framed photo of my wife hanging on the wall, tracing the outline of the side of her face, almost caressing it.
Your wife, Mona, isn't it? She is exquisite.
Get your hand off of her, I commanded through gritted teeth, the tenderness in his touch making me queasy, though she wasn't even there to feel it. He retracted his hand, folding it with the other atop the curve of his umbrella handle, leaning into the makeshift cane.
I beg your pardon. I was not aware she meant that much to you.
What, are you kidding? I retorted immediately. Mona is everything to me.
Do not lie to me, Luca.
He snapped, punctuating the statement by pounding the point of his umbrella into the floorboards. The jarring sound reverberated throughout the hallway. He waited for silence to return before he continued.
I've had my eye on you, Lucky Luca. I know you had relations with another woman not 6 months ago.
I hadn't realized I'd begun to sweat until I wiped the condensation from my brow. Normally, I'm a pretty even-keeled guy, but I felt my heart begin to race at the accusation, at the threat it posed. Listen, I signed, exhaling deeply in a feeble attempt to steady my nerves. I know I fucked up. It was a one-time thing. I was drunk. It was the worst mistake I've made in my life. I feel fucking awful. I haven't seen her since that night, and I'll never see her again. The stranger said simply, shrugging his shoulders as he focused his beady eyes on mine.
It appears you were lucky enough to get away with that transgression as well, I see.
I cast my eyes downward. The guilt I'd become painfully familiar with during the past 6 months, returning in full force. He was right. Mona had no idea. I knew that it was wrong to keep it from her, but I had no idea then just how wrong it would end up being.
That's all well and good then,
He added, after a few moments of silence.
I've just popped in to inform you that your luck has just run out, Luca.
With that said, he turned on his heels and hobbled out the door, expanding his umbrella as he entered the raging storm outside. I didn't want to believe what he told me at first, but it quickly became undeniable that his assertion was true. After he left, I noticed that my dishwasher had started leaking, but only once I stepped into the pooling liquid while wearing socks. I played some online poker and lost each round before going to bed, confused and frustrated. I went out to grab a beer at the pub the next night, but was beaten by a couple of men on the walk there. They stole all the cash I brought along with me, just a few 20s for drinks, and my pride. I skipped the pub, stepping in a pile of dog shit on the trip home, deciding to take a long drive to clear my mind instead. When I got back, I was hardly relaxed, so I finished off the bottle of whiskey in the cupboard. Riddled with guilt, I phoned Mona several times, but it was too late. She didn't pick up my calls. I sent her several drunken texts telling her I loved her, that I needed her, that I was sorry for the time I wasn't a good husband to her, that I'd be better. My only consolation through the dark night was the fact that she'd come home the next morning. I woke up with an absolutely crushing hangover. A quick check of my bedside clock revealed I'd slept in until the late afternoon. My alarm hadn't gone off. Just my luck, I suppose. No texts or calls from Mona either. Panicked, I tore through the house to see if she had come home quietly. but there was no sign of her anywhere. No humming from the kitchen as she poured herself some tea. No shoes haphazardly discarded in the middle of the entryway. I called her several times with no answer before dialing for Gina, the friend she'd gone away with over the weekend. My jaw nearly dropped to the floor when she warily asked why Mona wasn't at home with me. With some pressuring, she finally admitted that Mona had called off the trip last minute, that she seemed upset. She hadn't seen her all weekend. Dazed, I hung up the phone and phoned the police. They questioned me through my searing hangover for hours, grilling me on my movements for the last few days, forcing me to repeat each detail of the last time I'd seen her. I racked my brain for any potential clues I'd miss, but there was nothing out of the ordinary. She packed her bags for the weekend and kissed me before climbing into her car and backing out of the driveway.
But she never made it to Jenna's house.
The detective repeated sternly, her eyebrow furrowing.
I'm sorry, Luca. I'm just trying to help you find your wife, and things aren't adding up.
I shook my head vigorously, unable to come to terms with the fact that I was sitting in a police headquarters being questioned about the disappearance of my wife. I know that, detective. She just up and vanished. That's why I called you in the first place. Maybe she was taken, I offered, my voice cracking with the hypothesis, what it could mean for Mona. I was mugged by a couple of guys the other night. Maybe they had something to do with it.
Yeah, I can see her in a fight recently,
she replied, nodding as she gestured to the bruises blooming under my left eye, the scratches on my arms and hands.
Is there something that you aren't sharing with me, Luca? Something that would help me find Mona?
You aren't listening to me, I shot back, irritated. It was clear that she believed I was responsible for her disappearance. Clear that I wouldn't get anywhere with the police. Clear that I had to start looking for her myself if I was going to find her at all. I'm done here. Let me know when you stop dicking around and start looking into real suspects. My luck only got worse from there. The woman I cheated with publicly accused me of murdering Mona. In her statement, she claimed that I told her I'd recently lost my wife before we slept together. I'm ashamed to admit this is true. I had my wedding ring on when I met her, in a club while away on business. Drunk off my ass, I fabricated the lie and pocketed the ring. Mona and I had been going through a tough time, but it's no excuse for what I did. All of that being said, it didn't look good for me. Her statement, combined with the injuries I'd sustained in the robbery, and my inability to account for my whereabouts for the weekend, being home alone or taking a long drive apparently don't make for a great alibi. All increased police suspicion on me. With the press pinning sensationalized articles and the news running downright false segments, I was left practically crucified by the media. The general public assumed my guilt despite a clear lack of evidence and demanded more than just my arrest. They were out for blood. I needed to escape, to regroup, so that I could continue my search for Mona. I jumped in my car and just drove for a while, eventually deciding to overnight at another one of our properties, a more secluded house that we like to steal away to for weekend trips. I had already checked for Mona there earlier in the week. Had even been driving in the area the night the strange man came to visit, but no luck finding her on either occasion. That's why I was surprised to find her car parked there in the garage once I arrived, as if there was nothing wrong at all. My heart skipped a beat as I raced into the house, opening and slamming doors as I looked for her, calling her name with hopeful tears in my eyes. I ran up and down the stairs several times in my search, but there was still no sign of her. I rushed out into the yard, hoping to find her stretched out in a lounge chair, reading a book by the pool, maybe sipping a gin martini. My heart sank as I saw that the space was completely still and empty. I was about to go back inside and phone the police to alert them of my discovery when something caught my eye. Despair turned to nauseating dread as I noticed that the shed, which was always locked up, was slightly ajar. Hesitantly, I crept to the door, nudging it open gently to peer inside. I was hit by the smell, putrid and noxious, yet slightly saccharine before the sight. Once I saw Mona there, swollen and discolored, I whipped around and vomited right on the lawn. Her body was posed seated on the paved flooring, back against the wall, legs splayed out in front of her, head tilted back. Her mouth was open so wide that the corners of her lips were torn, her cheeks splitting. A foreign object protruded from her mouth, and it took me a few moments to put two and two together to comprehend what the object was. It was a curved wooden handle, the end of an umbrella, the rest of it lodged deep inside of her throat, extending down to her insides. As I struggle to write this series of god-fucking awful events out, I want to make it clear that I am not looking for pity. I know it's my fault that she's dead. I know that I should have been the one to die, and I'd give anything to take her place. I know that I fucked up, that she didn't deserve any of this. I don't want your pity, because I know I don't deserve it. Instead, I'm sharing this as a warning before I dial the police and am undoubtedly arrested. I'm sharing this as a warning to the others out there like me, the kinds of people who have had fortune fall into their laps, the folks for whom things always tend to go their way, the people who seem to get away with everything, the ones born with the gift of luck. Just like I was. Though I've come to realize now that it was a curse in the long run, once the auditor stopped by and my luck ran out. As I come to a close here, and as I accept the consequences of what I've done to poor Mona, I can't help but ruminate on something the detective said to me during a heated phone call last night. The words play over and over again in my head, and on an unforgiving cycle of endless repetition.
I'm gonna be honest. I think you murdered your wife, Luca.
She said, exasperated.
Either that, or you're just the unluckiest man in the world.